back.
They know we at work. We work, y'all. How you doing? We at work. Okay. No. Yeah. Whew. Okay. Yeah. Take the mask off.
Face look all rosy.
And I'm gonna open my computer so if somebody sends anything, I can read it to you if you can't see it.
Good evening. I think we have a couple of people already on. We have to admit them.
No,
Okay.
it just shows you the stuff.
Oh, yeah. We lost one.
No, not my phone. Anybody here with a name on it can watch it. But
Okay.
I'm gonna check here.
I really don't need that.
If you need to email something to them or a document or something, I can do that.
I'll let you take.
They've already got it. They already got that. Great. Who at the door? Somebody watching.
Yeah. Good afternoon. We're going to wait a few minutes. My name is Renee Gray. I am we are with the Housing Authority of the City of Fort Myers. I'm the Housing Choice Voucher Director. And along with me, we have Thea Parker. She's waving.
Hello, everybody.
We're going to wait a few minutes.
I hear myself.
My name is Renee Gray.
Ooh.
We are with the Housing.
There we go. Okay.
Okay. A little bit of technical difficulties, but we're going to wait a few minutes to see if we can get a few more people to join us prior to getting started. So if you could bear with us, we won't wait very long, no more than 5 after. Thank you. Good evening, and I'd like to welcome you, those who have joined and those who are already in attendance. We want to definitely go ahead and get started. Again, my name is Renee Gray, and I am the director of the Housing Choice Voucher Program. And along with me is Thea Parker.
Hello.
And I'll have Miss Thea give a little introduction of what she does and tell you a little bit more about what she's doing here at the Housing Authority of the City of Fort Myers. This is one of our landlord sessions, I believe our third one that we had. And we are eager to continue these sessions, and we hope that all of you in attendance are finding these sessions to be very enlightening. And if there's any information, any additional information you're in need of, then definitely feel free to contact us. If you have any questions as we go through this, utilize the chat, and Thea will let me know of any questions that arise, and we'll do our best to assist you with clarifying any situations that may not seem as clear, or to assist you with whatever way you need to be helped. Again, this is Miss Thea Parker, and I'll let you go ahead. Ms.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. I'm Thea Parker, and I'm here at the Housing Authority. I'm a housing specialist, specifically here to educate, recruit, and be a hand in the community to talk and discuss about the benefits of our Section 8 voucher program and how the program works. So I am usually out in the field. I'm making phone calls. I'm emailing you. I'm the person that you're getting all those emails from to invite you to our webinars and invite you to our administration here if we have an in-person meeting. So that's me. I wanted to tell you about our incentive program that we started as of November. It's still in place. We just re-released a new press release as of this month to let all our current and new landlords know that we are doing a signing bonus of $500 for new units, up to $2,500 per owner or property manager. This is a great initiative from the CARES Act funding that's allowing us to make sure that, we're in the community being able to house as many people as possible and as soon as possible. And if you all have been in the business of Section 8 housing, you know that there's usually more tenants than there is housing. So that's my specialty. That's what I'm here for, to try to increase the list of housing that's available. And my email address, I'm going to type it in the comments, but it is Thea, T as in Tom, HEA, P as in Parker, theap@hacfm.org. If you have a unit that you already know that you want to add to the list for potential tenants to look at or call or come and look at. But I can email you the new incentive that we have. If you already haven't gotten it, I am sending several emails, so you probably already have it. You probably already have it, but that is the gist of the incentive of $500 for new units. So those units haven't been with our office before. That means you didn't have a tenant in there before and they left, or their lease expired. This is a brand new unit on the program, whether it's an apartment or a house, that we're doing the $500 signing bonus. Is there anything else here on here you want me to talk about? I think that's it for the signing bonus. Yeah. $2,500 max per property manager or owner. Now, I do want to clarify for you all, we do not steer tenants. We don't send them directly to a property. That's not our position. What we do provide is a list of houses that they get to choose. They get to call the landlords or call the offices to try to see them. I do want to say gosection8.com is the preferred website that we're using, where you can upload your photos of your property. So the potential tenant gets to actually see them online or on their phone. Although I am creating an in-house list, I don't have pictures on my in-house list, but on gosection8.com, our tenants are usually trained to use that website. If you would actively place all of your available units there, new or old, then you would get a little bit more exposure for them to be able to see your houses. Now, a little tip that we usually tell our landlords and owners is put your contact information in the description so that they can contact you directly. I think you have to pay if you don't, Miss Renee. You have to,
Correct.
yeah, you have to pay for the contact in order to find out who wants to see your property if you don't put your contact information in the description. So just want to give you that tidbit. So that's gosection8.com to list your current properties that you have available or any coming up that you want to be on the program. Please repeat the email address. Okay, Camille, I'll type it in the description so you'll have it.
Okay. The landlord incentive is a great way to get new owners interested in participating, or for current existing owners to make available any existing units that they currently have for rent. As always, when it comes to our voucher holders, there's always a bit of a disconnect with how this program works versus, how would I say, what they've heard about the program, or what owners have heard versus how it actually works. So we do feel like this is a great way to educate everyone and get some new owners on board, and even the current existing owners, to give them a true feel of how this program works. Day after day, we're always informed, or we're reached out by owners and customers, and their perceptions are always a little bit off. So it's always good to be that source to give you the information you need, as opposed to relying on a friend or a friend of a friend who feels like they have a true understanding of how this works. We will be regularly holding these sessions. So right now on our schedule, and I'm sure Theo will be updating everyone as we go along, but we have our meeting today, and there will be another one on the 28th. And the beauty of these meetings is that they are on YouTube, and they'll be saved there, and you're able to go back to them to view in the event that you did miss one. Or even if you want to binge watch one day, everybody does that, right? But they are there and readily available for you. So today I definitely wanted to speak on the eligibility process for participating customers and owners, which for owners isn't as thorough as it is for a participant. To become an available or a participating owner with the program, you simply need to make your unit available for a Section 8 participant. And as an owner or management, landlord, whatever your title would be, it's not, I'm sure you guys are just looking to get your units filled. So if we can definitely benefit by renting to one of our Section 8 participants, sometimes it comes with a little bit of kid gloves. It really depends on the participants. We have a big population of disabled and elderly individuals who are sometimes in need of a little bit more help to get through the process. In many instances, they do have a caseworker or someone who's hopefully available to assist them with that entire process. But in the event they aren't, then sometimes we are needing the actual community to offer a helping hand in those instances. The voucher program is here to assist the families with their monthly rental obligation, and that's the purpose of the voucher program. We do not act as an agent on behalf of the owner. We really don't get in the middle of landlord-tenant disputes. You as an owner would treat this family as you would any other person who's coming to you for housing or to rent a unit. The only additional aspect in some instances would be to try and maybe keep us in the loop, or if they have a caseworker that could be involved, to assist them possibly with that process. And we're always looking for owners who are definitely hoping to assist our customers as much as it can. When it comes to our disabled customers or those who have been chronically homeless, they struggle sometimes with the paperwork and understanding the entirety of the process. So we definitely can appreciate the need to continue your business as usual, but we're also hoping that there's a little bit of a compassion to allow these persons the opportunity to seek housing. Thea didn't mention it, but she's also going to be or working with our VASH community. And VASH is VA veterans, and it's Veteran Administration Supportive Housing. And those are funds specified solely for our veterans. And so with the VASH program, we receive those referrals directly from the VA office. So if you are aware of anyone who's a veteran and may be going through some bad times at this time, whether financially or if they cannot find stable housing, you should advise them to contact our local VA office in Cape Coral. And if they could just mention the need for VASH housing or VA housing, then someone there should be able to connect them to the right person to try and get them determined eligible. The eligibility process first begins with VA, and VA then will send a referral over to our agency directly. And at that point, we will then require the families to fulfill minimal obligations. Sometimes that can be a problem as well, because if they are chronically homeless, then they may not have all of their paperwork at that given time to obtain housing right away. Nonetheless, we work with you as much as possible, but there is no way of bypassing the mandatory items that would be needed. So that information would be passed on. And the good thing about VA, they are always, any VASH participant has a VA representative to assist them. In addition to the VA admin, they usually have other people in the community that are assisting them as well, but through a little bit of a referral system. In many instances, when it comes time for them to actually locate housing or ready to move in, they're in many cases eligible for emergency assistance to help them with their security deposits and sometimes first month's rent, depending on the funds that are out there and available at any given time. And I say that only because when you've got a pot of money and it has depleted itself, there is no more money to possibly meet every expense, or I just say expense that they would incur, but they do a good job at trying to find the resources to assist these customers. So there are instances where these customers will go out and reach out to you. We also have our mainstream, which is specifically those who are, in many of the cases, of individuals who've been chronically homeless. And I know in our area, we are struggling with that. But we're trying to do our best on the level that we're able to assist when it comes to the vouchers that are allotted to us. We're doing our best to try and make sure that we can get customers who can hopefully break that cycle. If they could obtain the housing, the next best step is for them to maintain it. And sometimes that within itself becomes a struggle, but the supportive services that are out there are there solely for that reason. And so there are caseworkers that are involved, hopefully assist them with maintaining that. The VASH or mainstream, those are programs that we have here, but it's still the voucher program. It's the same old voucher program. The only difference in those two programs and getting a customer qualified or determined eligible is their initial criteria, or it's only the initial criteria of eligibility. For VASH, it's just a referral from VA. They're going to be determined eligible if they meet the income guidelines. Mainstream, it's a matter of being homeless, and that's something that has to be verifiable. Many of those mainstream vouchers as well, or referrals, come to us from several community agencies who can verify the fact that these individuals are in fact homeless and disabled. Unfortunately, the mainstream has a designation of non-elderly. So you have to have someone who's 18 or older, disabled in the household, meaning the same person has to be an adult, disabled, non-elderly in order to qualify for mainstream. And those items have to be verifiable. So if by chance any of you have small housing units, because in many instances they're single individuals or small families, but we definitely have instances where there are larger families as well. I don't want to just solely harp on the mainstream and or bash, but there is a need here in our community. And if you do have any units available, then definitely feel free to call Thea or email Thea the availability of your units, and she will post them. And in addition to the Go Section 8, the Go Section 8 is an awesome source. And we are literally, when you post your information there, because you're within Lee County, we're able to go and print a clean list from there, from that site, and mail it out to all of our customers. And I know Thea's doing the same with the list she's maintaining. She's always emailing them to customers who are out there certified and looking for housing at this time. She keeps everyone up to date on the fact of your properties if you've been contacting her directly and giving her that information, by mail as well as email, whichever way is going to be convenient. So when it comes to that eligibility process for any other participant, if you don't come through with the stipulations of BASH or mainstream, then you're just a regular voucher. And as I stated, even those programs, they work exactly the same. The only difference is that initial eligibility and how they come off the waiting list and how we issue, and the reason for us issuing the voucher. That's just a criteria to meet. So everyone else is a regular voucher. And I can't stress enough. I hear a lot in the community that the agency, oh, you guys never open your waiting list. It hasn't been open in years. We hear so many comments, but I'd like to tell you here and now, the waiting list is a mandatory part of the assistance process. It's not just something we tell you about every 3 to 6 years. It is a mandatory part of the eligibility process. So when it comes to the Housing Authority administering the voucher program, we've got a housing choice voucher, but we also have public housing here at our agency. We have project-based vouchers here at our agency. And when it comes to all of these federally assisted programs, the waiting list is a mandatory part. So if you had to think about it from the stance of, we've got a pot of money, and within this pot of money, HUD tells us we can house a set amount of families, a specific amount. So as these customers continue on the program year after year, we have to recertify them to redetermine eligibility. If 2 of those families go off the program within one given month, the waiting list offers our agency a pool of families or individuals who have applied to offer subsidy to. As I mentioned, if it's one pot of money, we're not receiving new funding, we're not receiving additional monies. In many instances, monies are being cut year after year, but that's a totally different story. We still have to house X amount of vouchers or families to continue receiving the funding that we have and that we receive. So if that's the case, we're always waiting for voucher holders, current participants, to go off of the program before we can offer them subsidy, okay? And I hope that makes sense. In the instance of public housing, I know we're the voucher program, we also have project-based voucher. If you've got a community that only has 20 units and we have 300 families on a waiting list, it's going to take quite some time before we can get through that waiting list because one, we're waiting for a unit to become available. That means someone who's currently housed has to vacate. And when they vacate, now we're pulling names off of the waiting list to see who qualifies. If person number one on the waiting list doesn't qualify for whatever reason, then we go to person number two. So with that being said, the waiting list, hopefully that explains the process, and whether it's project-based voucher or housing choice voucher, it still pretty much runs the same. The waiting list is a mandatory part of the process. We simply have to wait till current voucher holders are terminated or they go off the program voluntarily, which happens all the time. Or we have families that income out. And when they go off of the program, we then go to the waiting list. Therefore, it's never going to be a quick or fast process unless we had a very high turnover monthly. Then we'd constantly be pulling hundreds of names off of the waiting list. So hopefully that gives you an understanding. It's not us just trying to tell people we got a list. We're not just telling you that for the sake of having an excuse. The last time we accepted applications with our Housing Choice Voucher Program was November 2018. And at that time, we received nearly 9,000 applications. And although we receive plenty of calls every day, not necessarily the nicest of calls either. People think we're just blowing smoke, and we're not. We are a little under 5,000 names on our list now. And that is because of purging the waiting list, making a normal practice of taking care of that process, where that is updating the list, sending out notices to our active applicants, and seeing if they're still interested or still in need. And as years progress, situations change. Some people who initially applied may no longer be in need at this time. So it's a quick way to clear them out of the waiting list, lower the amount. In addition, we've been pulling lots of names. We're always actively pulling names. To pull names or removing them from the waiting list to determine eligibility doesn't mean we pull thousands at a time, but we definitely constantly pull names to determine eligibility, and that also weeds names off of the list and gets us through that process. So yeah, eligibility isn't as simple as applying and you immediately obtaining assistance. The wait, once you apply, it can be time consuming. It can be a year, it could be 6 years. It's a matter of how long it takes us to get through that existing waiting list before we reopen. And if we start getting to a low number on our waiting list, then we will definitely open up the waiting list and start that process again. So it's a never-ending story. Waiting list is mandatory. We're always going to have it. And just so that you understand, we are not equipped for emergency housing. And that's the purpose of the waiting list. If we had that emergency housing, it would definitely go much swifter, a lot faster rather, okay? I also wanted to speak on our eligibility process. As Thea mentioned, I shouldn't say eligibility, but our pre-qualifying a unit for eligibility is when we certify a client, that client is determined eligible, that customer will be issued a voucher, and the customer will then be given some formulas for them to locate housing. As I mentioned earlier, we have our fair market rents and payment standards. The fair market rents are established by HUD. The federal government sets them every year. And for our area, we receive them every November. And yeah, they're effective for November. And as an agency, we can then choose when we're going to put it into effect. So when it comes to the fair market rents with the voucher program, as an agency, we are allowed by regulation, we're able to set the our payment standards. We have to set a payment standard, and it can be anywhere from 90 to 110% of the fair market rent. And so we have established our payment standard at 110%. And we've been doing that for several years now, because number one, the fair market rents aren't necessarily in line with 100% of the housing that's out there in the community. But I think it is a fair medium for customers to be able to get out and locate housing and utilize their assistance there. So when it comes to those values, they're set in stone pretty much for the agency and for every participant. Every participant that is a one-bedroom voucher holder will pretty much be set at the same payment standard. Now, as a customer, as I mentioned, they're certified and they're out looking for a unit. Each family or applicant has different income or the potential for different income. And HUD regulation does allow a family to locate housing above that payment standard in accordance to what their income is. The rule is the customer is allowed to exceed the payment standard, providing it doesn't make, or that client isn't paying more than 40% of their income as tenant rent. So we actually do the math and tell the customer how much they're able to exceed that guideline by, okay? And that is provided to that customer at the time of certification. So when a customer is going out to you, they will have in their possession what they're always calling, and we always call the pink packet. So there's this little booklet, and within this booklet, we've got a landlord information questionnaire, the HUD request for tenancy approval, an owner agent form, our lead-based paint disclosure, as well as tax forms. We want and need each owner to complete a W-9 form, IRS form W-9, as well as a direct deposit form, because we make our HAP payments monthly by direct deposit, and all monies that's dispersed from the Housing Authority of the City of Fort Myers are taxable. They will be reported to IRS, and you will receive 1099s annually. But this information is mandatory to be completed by the management or owner of the property that's handling, or whomever is handling the property for the customer to take occupancy. It's up to you as the owner to pre-qualify or qualify this customer that's a participant of the voucher program as your tenant. If you require an application process, we already inform the customers that they must follow whatever it is, whatever your process is. Well, when it comes to our customers, we do tell them to be a little bit mindful of what they're spending, because they're already of lower income to be eligible for the voucher program. And we don't want them to be at risk of losing an opportunity to lease a unit because they spend all of the money they do have towards application fees. And I know that those could be quite expensive. So we do ask our customers or instruct them to ask managers and owners, what is it that you're looking for? And to make you aware in advance of any potential deficiencies on their credit report, so that they can avoid paying a fee knowing they would be disqualified from the start. I know not every owner is interested in doing so, but it is a good measure if you are able to tell them, so that they aren't losing their money. And I know you guys aren't in the habit of just trying to get customers to pay off an application fee. So if they can't afford it, it would definitely be admirable to let them know up front, you wouldn't qualify based on whatever criteria, because we're definitely not asking you to bypass your rules or whatever criteria you have set, but to just consider them when they are asking you. In addition, we instruct our customers to communicate with you as much as possible as far as their applications, what their income is, what they're able to afford. And the customers, they know this up front. So by the time they're out searching for a unit, they already know what their rental obligation will be because we're able to determine that based on their income alone and our utility allowance schedule, which is an added deduction that we take off of, off of their 30% of their income. But the customers know when they go out to you what their rental obligation would be, what their maximum rent could be, and they know this on the basis of different types of utilities because our allowances are different if you want to rent a mobile home versus a single family home or an apartment or duplex. So those guidelines are actually different. So we give them multiple utility allowance and spreadsheets to show what their rental obligation would be. Now, I will tell you, we inform our customers not to give you that. We do. Because it's for them so that they can have it. If you take it as the owner and they never see it again, then they're completely lost and they're confused and we're trying to communicate with them. So that's information that is totally for their record, but they know what their guidelines are and they have it in their possession. As an owner, just stress the importance of them giving you accurate information. If you view it, if they ask you, if you ask them to view it and they allowed you to view it, then it's definitely something that can be verified through them. It should be written on there. This is their guideline. But I ask you, and fair housing laws actually prevail, and you should be treating our clients the same and asking of them the same as you would any other customer. We have had instances where owners will see a customer spreadsheet and immediately their rent goes up, even though it's out there advertised at a different amount. The rent increases to the maximum amount that the customer can lease a unit. And if that maximum amount is above the rental guideline, the payment standards, that could potentially become a hardship for the family because that additional amount will never come from the housing authority. It will never be HAP, which is our housing assistance payment. That's the monthly payment we send to you. That will totally be on the client's end. It'll be their obligation, but it'll be worked right into the math of who's responsible for what. And I know in many instances, owners, you guys don't understand that. You don't go through the orientations the way the customers do. And even when we do meet, we rarely would we go as in depth with you as the potential owner or landlord of the property as we do the customers, because we get more into the financial aspects of their family makeup, their income, any eligible deductions they may have to calculate their rent. We do that more with the family, and we're really not able to disclose everything on behalf of that family and their file financially to you, other than what the rental breakdown would be. So for each participant you have, if you were to have multiple tenants in your properties, then you definitely would have multiple rent obligations and breakdown, multiple situations. And even if you had 2 tenants, same amount of family members, I guarantee you their situation would be totally different as far as what their rental breakdown would be, eligible deductions, and so forth. But as participating customers, our voucher holders, they have obligations that they have to meet and uphold in order to continue and maintain participation with the voucher program. So our hope is to continue paying HAP on their behalf. And we try to encourage every one of our participants at any opportunity to always keep the communication open with their landlord. If they're having an issue, to communicate that with you. We find that some people struggle communicating with us. So we know that oftentimes they would definitely struggle to communicate with you as well. But we do try on our end to encourage them to use the right words, to use the right tone so that the communication, or, it's a valuable thing to be able to discuss any situation with your landlord, even if it puts the customers in a bad situation. It's easier to just be honest and express yourself to your owner rather than hide and duck from them, which could be troublesome. Which doesn't happen often, but we have had instances where owners are just very much frustrated with a customer. And usually it's a customer who struggles to communicate. Our population that we deal with, it varies. It's people from all walks of lives, people who've had struggles probably more recent, who thrived in their younger years or years before. So we're dealing with all kinds of people, and when we have that situation and a person struggles to communicate, we're hoping you two could have a little bit of patience with them. Not asking you to definitely just take anything, but that patience, it goes far to let them know, hey, I understand where you're coming from, but if you could just, let them know. I know I always encourage them. I'm trying to understand you. It's the words that you use. I'm trying to understand you, but so I'll stop them and I'll tend to take over the conversation by asking questions as opposed to allowing them to continue.
We have a question.
We have a question.
Yes.
I saw that.
Leslie Cook is asking, as a property manager, what happens if the client continues to keep failing inspections?
Okay, when we go out to conduct an inspection, we're always going to note in the end of that inspection, it'll be noted who's responsible for what. If it's tenant obligation, landlord obligation, when it comes to a unit failing inspection. For those of you, if you're listening on and you're not currently participating, we must conduct we must conduct HQS, Housing Quality Standard inspections. We used to do them annually, and now we've moved to doing them biennially. So it'll be every 2 years, but there's always the prospect for our agency to conduct a special inspection. As an owner, it's a role that you've got to take over. We definitely suggest you make regular visits to your property. And I'm not saying weekly, monthly, none of that. But it's good to set that standard early on when this tenant is moving into your property for the first time. Let them know you want to get a feel for who they are as a tenant, how you value your unit, your property. You want someone who's going to live there, maybe long-term or short-term, whatever your goals would be, and how you expect them to take care of your property. We have many instances where customers are never even told that. They're given keys, they're left to just rent the unit. I've had customers who called me asking questions about their unit as if I would know, and I don't know those questions. I try to assist them as much as I can, and I always refer them to go back to their landlord or agent for assistance. In the instance of well systems, those are big around here, and we have customers who sign a lease and no one explains to them how to care for it. And a year or two down the road, you're having major issues because the customer was never instructed how to care for it, and has done the best they could, maybe with the knowledge of a neighbor, and it may have not been fully proper. So it's a good rule of thumb to inform your customer, or I'm sorry, our customer, your tenant, of your expectations, from the start, so that you build a rapport as far as your expectations, and hopefully they can meet those expectations as your tenant, the one occupying your unit. If we go out and it's failing inspection and it's a situation where the tenant is at fault, that customer could potentially be terminated. if the issues are not being repaired. So as a customer, they risk losing their participation with the voucher program. So there's a certain amount of inspections that we will conduct. And we've also had instances where every single time we go out, it may be a new issue. In some instances, I would say for the majority of our fails, it's usually owner-related issues, but it does happen where it's a customer who's at fault. And you just have to do your best to express it to that customer of your expectations. But in the end, if that customer isn't meeting their obligations, they'll end up potentially being terminated. Hopefully, they will do what they need to do to get those repairs made. But depending upon the issues, it can become a problem, I'm sure, for you as a landlord. And hopefully, as an owner, if you can set a schedule to regularly go into that unit, then to view it. Some owners, they're really savvy with how they do it. Like they'll connect it with their rent.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'll be here to pick up my rent.
Right.
You get a tenant who's like, well, I can mail it to you, or I can do a direct deposit. And the owner just says, no, I'm gonna stop by to pick it up.
Or
I'll phone you in advance.
Exactly. They said we're gonna be here every month or quarterly to change the air conditioning filter.
Yes.
That's just automatic. They put in their lease agreement that's automatic. So you get the chance to get in, inspect, see how they're treating it,
Correct.
have a little conversation with them if
Right.
you see some issues before they get worse.
And definitely before we get to the point of the unit failing inspection.
Absolutely.
Our agency going out to conduct an inspection is just one piece of the puzzle. How this customer lives is the larger piece. And it shouldn't be our inspection before you know that they may not keep house well. So I know you may have a tenant who's adamant that nobody should be in my house when I'm not home, but that's not what the law says. The law states you have a right to notify your tenant that you're coming. All you need to do so is give them written notice and present yourself. Whether they're there, whether they are home or not, shouldn't stop you from following through with your appointment that you've scheduled. And you may have some tenants who feel like that's the case, but channel your inner Renee and tell them this is how it's going to be. There's an inner Renee in everybody. I'm as direct as they come. I get told I'm soft-spoken, but I am very much direct. So channel that little part of yourself and just let them know. Don't be apprehensive, because some people, and I've encountered these people, whether it's dealing with housing or outside of housing, they exist everywhere. Some people feel like they can gain the upper hand with their tone or whatever the case. And for me, you can yell, you can scream, you can do whatever. It is what it is. The bottom line is I've served you notice or whatever the case, and I will present myself whether you're home or not. And it's easier to put that in your notice, okay? And notice doesn't have to be necessarily be something written, like typed up nice and neat. This day and age, people are communicating in many different ways. We have customers and who always tell us, oh, we only communicate with our manager by text. If that's how you communicate, that's how you communicate. A text, an email. I always suggest you lock it so that you can maintain proof. An email is probably easier to track than that text, but whatever is the easiest way for you to communicate. I mean, I'm not a landlord. I don't go to court. I don't know if a text message will hold up in court if you had a situation.
In this day and age, it does.
It does? Okay.
In this day and age, yes. They don't have a choice.
But that's a good thing. And I always tell customers to screenshot their text communications and shoot them to their email, so that if they have issues in the future, or if they should damage that phone and they no longer have access to it, they should always maintain access to the email. So that's just a little tidbit of information that I do advise the customers to do. But you as an owner, you definitely should do the same. You've got to take whatever avenues to protect yourself as you can. And when you have a customer who isn't caring for the property, you want to make sure that you can do whatever within your power, hopefully, to change them around. If they'd like to maintain tenancy in your unit for whatever reasons, maybe their kid's school is right down the street or in close proximity. Maybe their job is in close proximity to your home and they really don't want to move, but no one may have ever taught them how to care for a unit. And sometimes what I think may be clean may be different than what Thea may think is clean. And we've literally had customers who just don't understand or just don't know. And hopefully you can find the patience, Ms. Cook, to give her maybe a list. This is what's acceptable and this is what is not. I'm not going to come in your home to clean, but when I come to visit your home, it should be within this type of shape at all times, not just when we're coming out to do an inspection, not just when you're going to view your unit. The tenant should understand, and they definitely know or should know that the unit needs to be kept clean and maintained all the time. We live in a climate where everything thrives here in Florida. So
yes.
We don't need bugs or infestations throughout all of our homes. Yes, or mold.
Yes,
Many issues could occur if you're not cleaning regularly. And I think we all know that. So hopefully you can turn your tenant around and she could change, maybe with a little bit of advice and maybe giving her something in writing. Maybe, hey, this day and age, we're on YouTube. There's probably a YouTube video out there how to clean. I know I've found YouTube videos from other housing authorities as far as how to conduct inspections. So anything under the sun is probably out there. So you could probably pull it up and shoot her a link by text.
So for you all who don't know, in my previous life, I was a property manager for Section 8 housing. So I have some, experience with,
from your perspective, she has your experience.
So coaching our tenants to kind of keep house a little better. And something that kind of worked for me was recommendation for products. Oh, they have this thing that smells great. What is that stuff called? It's purple. Everybody loved it. I can't think of the name of it. I don't know, Fantastico or something. Whatever the cleaning product is, right, that you're recommending. It could be Clorox spray or wax. Oh, that'll just clean that right up. They have it at Walmart. It's only $2 because, like Miss Renee said, they just don't know. They might not even know what they're supposed to even use to clean it. And so when I would just make these little recommendations, those Mr. Clean erasers, they get everything off. I promise it works for everything. And they'll say, oh, for real? Really? And then next time I come, oh, Miss Parker, I used those magic erasers. It came right off. You were right. Sometimes they just don't know. I have children myself, so I try to coach my moms and parents into getting kids involved in the whole cleaning process and saying, let's make it a family event. Maybe you all do a cleaning day. That's what we do at my house. We have a family cleaning day. Put on music and then we clean this. And they're like, oh, that sounds cool. So just making it where they can understand and that you're there to help. I want you to stay in the unit. I'm not trying to force you to do something different or do it my way. It's just in order to maintain this unit, these are some recommendations that I suggest. So we just try to give it conversations. I would have these light conversations, especially from my perspective, like what I did at my house. So usually that helps tenants to be a little bit more relaxed instead of on guard, like you're attacking them.
Yes.
I use this product on my windows and it works fabulous. Maybe it'll work on yours too. And they would say, oh, I'm going to have to try that and see if it works. So that's usually what I did. I would drop off little little handy bags. Maybe it's the holidays and it may have some little household cleaning products in it. Something like that that kind of coerces them to use it. And then they tell me how great it worked for them. So it's kind of like you're building this rapport. Just like Renee said, you're building a relationship with your tenants. We sold our properties and we had tenants that were there for 10 years. They never left. They loved it. It's when you build that relationship, they get an understanding of a great unit and you get consistent income that never goes away. So it works.
Yes, it's a win-win.
Yes, it really is.
It's a win-win.
I don't see any more questions, Ms. Renee.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions that you'd like for me to go over or to answer? Any topics?
I gave them your email address.
Okay.
Ms. Camille said she needed to speak with you about canceling her contract yesterday.
Uh-oh.
I know, awful. And let's see, Leslie asked about the inspections, said thank you. Leslie said thank you for your response.
You're welcome.
So I don't see any
Okay, I know I mentioned the pink packet to you guys, and this is a mandatory part. This is what triggers us to conduct an inspection to get a customer in occupancy of your unit. After we get this in is when we schedule what Miss Leslie brought up. I was going to get there, the inspection, the housing quality standards inspection. And after the inspection's conducted, the unit must pass inspection. And then we go through the rent reasonableness, which is a rent approval process. We actually go through that same Go Section 8 website. So we pay them to actually conduct our rent reasonableness or perform them through their agency. And that's a mandatory part that must be conducted and completed prior to giving the customer approval to take occupancy. And so all of those must take place prior to entering into a lease agreement. And that lease agreement is the next step. Once we obtain a copy, we will then prepare the HAP contract and immediately get that out to you or your agents. And that's how you get a customer in occupancy of your unit. And I hope all of the information I covered was helpful to you. If you have any ideas or topics that you definitely like for me to cover or Thea to cover, we're open to it. As Thea updates you on upcoming meetings, then feel free to throw in suggestions. Leave them on the YouTube page as well, then we'll check them there if there is a topic that you'd like for us to cover. But we will utilize this time routinely to make sure that we continue our communication with you as the owners and participating landlords or prospective landlords, so that we can build a better relationship, and hopefully you can understand this program a lot more in depthly. It's not as difficult as it may seem, but there are a lot of intricate parts, and it's sometimes difficult to absorb it all. You may have to hear it more than one time before you fully get it or fully understand it, where you're to the point where you can repeat it. Okay? I'd like to thank you all again for attending. And our next meeting will be on the 28th. And you all have a great night. Good evening.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
You're welcome.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for attending. This stream will stop meeting. Will no longer be live.